All right, welcome back into the channel and welcome in for another rookie rankings video. Once again, joined by my guy Steve Bradshaw from the Fantasy Trading Room, the owner of the Fantasy Trading Room website, and one of the content creators on the Dynasty Trading Room YouTube channel. Listen, guys, we're going to break down the running backs in this video. It's going to be 30-ish minutes. I don't know. We'll see what it turns out to be. But if you want a ton of in-depth film breakdown, go check out the Dynasty Trading Room channel. It will be linked in the description. Steve, welcome back to the channel. Appreciate you joining us as we get ready for the NFL draft. Today, we're talking running backs. The way that this is going to work is I'm going to kind of defer to Steve, go through his rankings, see if we match up. Ultimately, running back one of the class. I think I got a guess here. Ashton Jeanty?
Yeah, it might be, even though I'll give you a hot take to start it off. He's not my number one offensive player in the draft, and not including Travis Hunter either. I have Ted McMillan over him in a vacuum.
We're talking wide receivers on Wednesday, so you guys are probably seeing this on Saturday. Make sure you check out Wednesday's wide receiver video. That is the spiciest of the rankings, I promise you.
Yeah, no, that's about as deep as we're going to get a debate near the top. Yeah, Jeanty's my running back one. I don't think there's much debate. I would absolutely love for my Bears to take him. I'm pleading he gets it there because I don't really like the Raiders landing spot as much as most. I don't think they're ready to compete yet. But I also might just be a little biased because I really want him to slide to 10. So
yeah.
Either way, though, Jeanty, I think everyone knows about him at this point. He is obviously dominant on the ground, elite contact balance. And also, even though he didn't really catch the ball much last year, just look back to 2023 and you'll see him put up unbelievable stats. I believe he had over 40 receptions and over 500 receiving yards. So I don't really have any concerns with him. The only knock you might want to give is, the conference play, like, Boise State.
I mean, we watched him do good against Oregon, who was the number one team in the country all year and has multiple NFL talents on the defensive line, including Derek Harmon, who might go in the first round. So he wasn't up against just nonchalant competition all year. And this is a guy who, if he wasn't playing at the same time as an absolute unicorn in Travis Hunter, would have won the Heisman Trophy at the running back position. And you could argue that he should. So if you feel that way, sound off again in the comments section and use this to vent for your Ashton Jeanty support. Ashton Jeanty is one of, I believe, two true 3-down running backs in this running back draft class that I would be fine handing the keys to my offense today based off of strictly college production. You mentioned the contact balance. He's got great strength. When he reaches the second level, that extra gear is there to make explosive plays. You see his size and his initial run and you think he's going to get caught. And then that second boost is there. And it's not there for every running back. It is there for Ashton Jeanty. This is a kind of player who can come in and immediately be the focal point of your NFL offense. He just had a quote today saying what he watched Saquon Barkley do last year, he thinks he can do. And I believe him. This is the kind of guy who he will come into your NFL team and make an immediate impact. He, and I don't say this lightly, may be the most impactful player year one that is drafted in this draft. And I mean that because it's a weaker quarterback class. And wide receivers, there's 3 to 4 on the field at all times. Jeanty is going to touch the ball more than any other skill position player in this draft class. And what he can do with it, would we be shocked if at the end of the season we were all talking about Ashton Jeanty as a top 5 back in football already? I don't think so.
No, I think that's a perfect way to put it. I think Jeanty could be an elite running back right out the gate. So I guess we can go into running back 2. And my running back 2 and 3 are actually very close. I don't know if you feel the same way.
But I don't know who you have, but my running back 2 I think is closer to Jeanty than closer to 3.
Okay, got you. Well, I think we have the same RB2, Omarion Hampton.
Yep.
And I think he's a possibility for the Bears as well if he falls. But the reason I like him more from an NFL perspective, I am a dynasty guy, so he's actually not my RB2 in rookie rankings, PPR league specifically. But he's that bigger body guy that you can feel comfortable giving 20 touches, 25 touches to a game.
You don't like him in the receiving game?
Not
I
really.
love him in the receiving game.
He's all
So
right.
we're completely different there. So
Okay.
I'll let you get your piece off on him, but we're completely different there. For everybody
It's
watching
not
that wanted to say Hampton can receive, I'm with you.
all right. It's not that I think he's a bad receiver, but I'll spoil RB3 just so I can talk about it. I just think Treveyon Henderson is an elite receiver. So I'll kind of clear that up and cover my base a little bit. I'm not a huge hater. I'm not saying he has brick hands, but a
Mhm.
lot of the production I did see was just like swing passes. I feel like his route tree wasn't as diverse. And I get it. You didn't have Drake May throwing you the ball in the final year. So I guess that does go into it. But that's the one worry I have where Jeanty, I thought, showed an elite route tree. I think his hands look a lot more natural than Hampton, in my opinion. I think he can be a serviceable pass catcher. I don't think he's going to be an elite guy. But on the ground, what he offers between the tackles is what makes him the RB2 because that's what NFL team wants. They want a guy that can get the ball 20 times and run for 4 or 5 yards every single play. And that's what he offers you. But he also is elusive. He can get to the outside. He can make big plays. I also don't see I don't think his breakaway speed is
That's my
close
one
to
knock on him.
Genty.
That's
Yeah,
my
I
one
agree.
knock on Hampton.
I
He's
agree.
gonna get caught.
No, I agree. I don't think it's bad. Like
No,
it's
it's not
Quinshon
terrible.
Judkins.
It's
Like
not
not saying he's
terrible.
terrible, but
It's not terrible, Hampton, but he's not getting 70-yard touchdowns, in my opinion.
right. I see him a lot closer to Judkins in that, you're not gonna be that big explosive back where people were knocking on Judkins for that. And I think I've heard people say Hampton is super explosive and can break out these runs. And I disagree there. I think it's because he can get to the outside and he can get to the second level and give you 20-yard runs, which is
Yep.
good and all. But that's like my knock on Hampton. So
That's a
I
fair
guess
criticism.
really the only thing we're different on is the receiving game. And I
Yeah,
don't
so
hate it.
I love Omarion Hampton. I am huge on him. I think that in a couple years we could look back at this the way we look at Bijan and Jahmyr Gibbs. And I've gotten some pushback from some of my friends about this. I don't know where you were on Gibbs at the time, but I thought Gibbs was right there with Bijan, and that was not popular opinion. People were very clear on Bijan as 1 and Gibbs is 2, and I thought it was a 1A, 1B situation. I think this is more of a 1A, 1C situation, if that exists, with just a little space in the middle. Because of the breakaway speed. But man, when I watch Omarion Hampton run, contact balance is certainly there. Elusiveness is there. Patience is there. I think he can get you good receptions, especially in the screen game, because of his ability to navigate around blockers. Do you know who I see when I watch him? I see Le'Veon Bell. I see Le'Veon Bell when I watch Omarion Hampton. Lev Bell wasn't breaking away big runs at a high clip either, but he was just so damn efficient every time you gave him the ball, and it was a beautiful masterpiece of running to see. Watching the film of Hampton, I seriously fell in love with the prospect, and when I mocked him to the Bears and you were upset about it, I was like, no, that'd be so good. And we'll see if Ben Johnson agrees with me. But I have Omarion Hampton as my clear RB2 in this class. And you mentioned you have Treveyon Henderson as 3. I as well have Treveyon Henderson at 3. This is the most explosive back in the class. This is a 80-yard touchdown waiting to happen like that. He is a fantastic receiving threat. And he gives me Jahmyr Gibbs-esque vibes with the way that he plays. I think if you got him in a committee, a la what they did at Ohio State, that is where he is best served, which is why I had him a spot below Hampton, because I do think he'd be best served paired with another back. But Treveyon Henderson is going to be the highlight reel of all highlight reels at the running back position.
No, I agree with that 100%. And I think we do have a Bijan and Gibbs, and I think that Gibbs is Treveyon Henderson, even though I do have to put Hampton above him just because of what he can do for NFL offense on all 3 downs. But also, one thing that is under talked about for Henderson is he can play all 3 downs. He
Yeah.
is a good pass protector. And while you might not love to trot him out there on first down, Like, he's not bad in between the tackles to where you're not going to feel comfortable putting him out there. He's just not as good in it as an elite guy like Omarion Hampton. But what he does well is he has an elite route tree. He is very natural catching the ball. He is explosive. I think he is, agreed, the most explosive back in this class.
The burners on him are
Yeah,
just unreal.
his playing speed is fantastic. So he breaks the outside. And also, his yards after contact is actually pretty solid. Looking at PFF, I was surprised to see he's near the top in percentage wise. He is 4.43 yards after contact per attempt. And while that necessarily might not be from the middle of the field, right, where you're having him go between the tackles and breaking tackles there, but once he gets outside, he has a multitude of ways of how he could beat a guy in a one-on-one situation. So I like Henderson a lot. I would love the Bears to take him in round 2. I just wish we had someone better than DeAndre Swift to complement him, who unfortunately plays a similar role as a pass catcher. So my doubts are there.
You know, Henderson as well, the competition he faced. If you wanted to make the case for Henderson over Hampton, Omarion Hampton's in the ACC at North Carolina. Henderson's in the Big Ten at Ohio State, facing better competition all year and shined on the brightest stage. The screen touchdown against Texas in the college football playoffs will live forever in my head as just one of those plays that was, oh my God, I cannot believe that I just saw that happen. I think that Jeanty, Hampton, and Henderson should be everybody's top 3 running backs. I understand that, there's an argument for some of the lower guys, but I'm glad that we both have those same 3 because to me, I think that that's the clear top 3. I fell in love with Hampton, the prospect, but I also am in love with Henderson, the prospect, so I wouldn't have been too mad at you if you had them swapped. I think the real conversation starts now, though. Who do you have as your RB4 in the class?
I have Kaleb Johnson at 4, and I feel
Me
like
too.
that's pretty consensus, but Judkins is getting a lot of love, so there's that. I think Kaleb Johnson's a guy that Hampton I like. I'm not a big fan of as a pass catcher, but Johnson I really don't like at all as a pass catcher. That's my main knock at him. And also the thing is, he is good at what an NFL offense is going to want, which, I think warrants him being a high pick. Why he's my RB4 in the stat class. But I really don't see him giving you much more beyond in between the tackles. I don't really see explosive changing speed. He doesn't really hit home runs. He's not great as a pass catcher. He's fine with his, ability to make a man miss on the outside. Like, he is somewhat elusive, but it's not elite by any means. I think the only elite part of his game is getting those yards between the tackles, which is what I like about him.
I think Kaleb Johnson has perfect NFL size. I think he is very clearly a grown man, and it is a tough tackle, absolutely. I think he would be best served in a David Montgomery-esque role on an NFL team. You pair Kaleb Johnson with a really fun receiving back. Denver, they're in the market for a running back. If you paired him with Jaleel McLaughlin, I think that could be something really good for them. Like you said, in between the tackles, it's not that he's a terrible third down back. You could certainly play him out there, but I'd rather have a specialty back in that role. I do think there's a little bit more ability for the home run play than you said. But again, it's not as close as the guys that, Henderson and Jeanty that we talked about. I think it's better than Omarion Hampton, though. I think he's more likely to break off a big run than Hampton. I liked what I saw at Iowa. I think the vision is probably his best trait, though. I think the way he navigated through the gaps and through the run lanes screamed pro to me. And some of the guys below Kaleb Johnson were not quite as consistent with that. And that's why I gave Johnson as well the nod as my RB4. Who do you have at 5?
My 5 is Quinshon Judkins.
Okay, so we are 5 for 5 so far.
5 for 5?
Yeah.
All right.
To clarify to the audience, we did not share rankings with each other beforehand. If you watch the quarterback video, you know for sure that that's true. This is just how the cookie's crumbling on running backs right now.
Yeah, no, I
It
think
won't be this way
Judkins.
for wide receivers either. I know that.
Yeah, I think I agree. No, Judkins is a guy that I actually, if I didn't like Kaleb Johnson, like if I was lower on him, I would really like having Judkins a lot higher than this because I think he gets a bit too much hate as a pass catcher. I think he can do it. I've seen Judkins play twice live now down in Ohio State, and I've seen him catch the ball downfield. I've seen him run a more diverse route tree than a Kaleb Johnson. And it's just they don't really ask him to do it, which is why he's such a big question mark when you have an elite third down back in Treveyon Henderson. Because that's the main question. Judkins, I think everyone knows he is the biggest bulldozer in this class, or at least one of them, where he's going to be fantastic
Yeah.
in between the
Top
tackles.
2.
Yeah, I mean, you have Jeanty, so it's kind
Yeah.
of tough
Oh,
to beat
well,
him.
top 3 then. Because
Yeah,
I think Skattebo's a bulldozer.
okay. Yeah, no, that's a good point too. But the question is with him, is he an elite athlete? Because the combine says he has the upside to do so. He tested very well in his 40.
What was he, in the 96th percentile of athletes?
Yeah,
Something like that.
I know he was really high in his RAS score as well. So yeah, it was like 9.88 or something like that along those lines. But you don't really see it. You see him get tracked down. So concern there, playing speed versus what his upside is in a, combine event. So that's the question you have with Judkins. And also, he played his best football down the stretch, which I think is a good thing for him. But he really did struggle at times throughout the year. So he didn't have the same level of elite production as these other guys, especially when you saw him break out at such a young age and he looked so much more explosive, looked better being able to make defenders miss an open space at Ole Miss. And then you see him digress in 2023 and 2024, and it's kind of like, where did a little bit of that go? And I'm a little worried that you're getting worse in some aspects rather than better. So there's that.
I think he is a really good downhill, strong runner. I think he's got pretty solid vision to him. I think he's not the kind of player that I want to be the main focal point of my offense, but he's the kind of guy that if I was a passing first offense, I would love to have as the running back of my team to kind of mix and match what we're able to do. So my comp for him is Joe Mixon, but Joe Mixon in Cincinnati. The second layer he was able to add to that Bengals offense where they were able to get consistent production on the ground from their running back. And because you can't stack the box, Mixon was able to excel at such a high level in Cincinnati. I think that's kind of the dream situation for a Judkins, where if you are not the focal point, he would succeed at such a high level that I think he'd fall into the end zone 10 times in a year, not facing stacked boxes. If he landed in Dallas in the second round, and if they took one of the receivers we're going to talk about, and then you have to worry about Lamb and a rookie wide receiver and Dak in this high-powered throwing offense, and then you get Judkins with clean looks, that's the spot where I think Quinshon Judkins can really become a difference maker and a playmaker in this class. But if he were to fall into a spot where, the Raiders, like we talked about, say they pass on Jeanty and Chip Kelly says, let's bring in Judkins. I coached him at Ohio State. I kind of question if he has the ability to succeed in that spot. So I'd love to see Judkins go to a more high-level offense because I think that would be the best spot for him. But I do think there's some high-level athleticism there. Who is your RB6 in this class?
I think we're going to agree here as well, based on what you said. I have Cam Skattebo as my 6.
I do not.
Oh,
I
really?
don't. I have Skattebo as RB8 in the class. He just barely cracked my top 8.
All right. Well, I have Skattebo as my 6. So I really wish I got to see him up close and in person. I was really upset that not only when I went down to the Senior Bowl, he ended up pulling out of that, but I tried to interview him at the Combine, and he snaked my podium after I camped out for him. So I feel like I should bump him down 3 spots just for that. But I'm not going to because he was so good in the college football playoffs. He really showed 3-down ability as a pass catcher. You look at him and you see the bulldozer he is, and you're not like, okay, this guy can make can be a great pass catcher, but not only does he catch the ball well, he'll catch the ball well 40 yards down the field. And we saw that in that one big play
Texas.
against Texas. Yeah, where he had that, I think it was a wheel route, 40, 50 yards down the
Yeah,
field. And it's like,
my thing with
oh,
Skattebo is I just don't expect that consistently. I think that was like a once in a blue moon play, and especially based on everyone's reaction, it looked like that is not something he normally does. Watching the tape, I had the same criticism for him as a receiver that you had for Omarion Hampton, where I just thought a lot of it was designed immediately throw to the flat to him and let him work, which at the college level, he was absolutely able to do and bulldoze over. I don't think that translates to the NFL quite as well in terms of the receiving game because there's a lot better open field tacklers in the NFL.
no, I see it. I saw him. I don't think that was like the only deep down the field throw or reception that I saw on tape, though. To be honest, sure, it wasn't that. I don't think I ever saw 40 yards down the field.
Yeah.
But I saw plenty of wheel routes from him. I saw a good amount of Texas routes. At least, and I know film watching is definitely a bit, you get different games. So it's like, you had that mix and match. But I saw more diversity.
I mean, it's possible I
him
missed some diversity.
him.
I just thought it was a lot, especially the big plays, I felt were a lot of just screens and
No, that's fair.
flat routes that he was able to bulldoze his way. But in between the tackles, there's no denying what Skattebo is. I don't want to come off as a Skattebo hater here. I just, that's where we differ in terms of the ranking. I didn't see 3-down potential. I thought he was a monster goal line guy, and first and second down, you need 4 or 5 yards. Give it to this guy up the middle, and he'll go make something happen.
Yeah. No, I think kind of just touching on the last parts of his game. I mean, having 45 receptions also, a majority of his receptions were like screen passes, right out the backfield. So I definitely see where you're coming from. I think the concern people have about him is the athleticism. Did he ever test this offseason?
I don't think so. And I think that's probably why. I usually, if you don't test, it's because you don't think you're going to do well in the specific category. I think he has fine on the field athleticism. Maybe he wouldn't have tested well numbers wise on a 40 or a vertical, but what I watched on tape, I value way higher than what you do at the combine. I think the combine can be vastly overrated, and we'll talk about that eventually. But my thing with Skattebo is the guy loves contact. The guy's a wrecking ball. I just think in the NFL, he's limited to first and second down in the goal line. And I think everybody that I have above him and everybody that we've talked about thus far, their ceiling has them as a 3-down guy. I think Skattebo's ceiling, he won't be in on third downs in the NFL level.
No, I get it. And I think Skattebo, he ran a 4.66 40 at his pro day too, which is generally juice. So that's not great. But the reason why I think it looks better on the playing field is simply because even though he's not a great athlete, he just has ways to make defenders miss. And that's not just running them over. He can make a juke in the open field. He can do all these things, which you wouldn't think he would be able to do considering how people talk about his athleticism, but somehow he just finds a way to get it done. And while he can't hit those home runs, that's definitely one knock against his game. There's not a whole lot that he can't do for me, and I would love to have him higher than RB6 if this class wasn't so stacked.
Yeah, my RB6, and I think we're at the point where it's possible that the guy I'm going to say didn't even make your top 8. I have Jordan James out of Oregon.
Ooh.
I think Jordan James, did he make your list?
No, he didn't, but he's a guy that I have been keeping an eye on, and one of my friends, Joe, really likes.
I think James has 3-down upside in the NFL, and I might be crazy for that. I am an Oregon fan, so I did have a closer eye on James throughout the season. I'm not going to lie there. I do have some character questions because it seemed like in the Rose Bowl, he just kind of stopped playing, and then there was like speculation if he was actually hurt on Twitter, and I don't really know the full story behind that, and we're not going to, but something worth noting there. But I think that while he feels like more of a first and second down guy, He reminds me a lot of Bucky Irving, who just came out of Oregon. They are similar style running backs, and while Rachaad White comes in on third downs for Tampa Bay, I've watched Bucky Irving make some real highlight plays in the receiving game this past year. Now, I know that especially the fantasy community is huge on Bucky Irving's upside right now, so I'm not sitting here saying that Jordan James is going to be him, but there are certainly flashes of that. He is a tough guy to bring down. He can get to the edge. He is elusive, and when he gets to that second level, there's a sneaky second gear there, man, that I just don't think is there in some of the other runners in this class. And Jordan James has sneaky explosive playability. For that, I put him at 6. So he's not on your list. Who is your RB7?
Yeah, and I actually, it's this speaks more to the class than it does Jordan James, because he's my RB18, so I have him a lot lower. He's 8, just with a 1 in front of it. The reason why is because I think he'd be a fine, backup, but he doesn't really have any elite traits, in my opinion, or elite, production at like.
I don't really think anybody past Judkins has elite traits to my eyes. I think everybody can be good to great at something, but I think past Judkins, there's no more elite. There's really good.
My RB8, I would argue, and we can save this for in the video, but I would argue one more person. My RB8 has 1 elite trait, but
okay. So who's your 7?
Okay, my 7. I think we're gonna be different here. I'd be shocked. Damien Martinez.
I do not have him. That's the Miami running back, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I don't have him on the list, but I watched some tape. I'm excited to hear your thoughts on him.
I love Damien Martinez. I got to see him up close at the Senior Bowl as well. Do you know what his, PFF grades, you love him or hate him? Do you know what his PFF rushing grade was this year?
No.
94.4.
Pretty good.
He looked fantastic. And I think the film backs that up. I don't really get where the hate, I don't really get why he's not being talked about as much. He had over 1,000 rushing yards in 2024 and 2023. He is, 10 and 9 touchdowns. He's a big body back. He's over 225 for sure. On PFF, he's 6 foot 232. I don't have his exact measurements at the combine pulled up, but he's a bulldozer that can also catch passes very well in spurts. He didn't show it frequently, and that's why I have him lower. But there is a few plays where there was one specific play that I don't even remember what game it was, but I don't know, they were wearing like the black jerseys, and he catches a ball out of the backfield wheel route and so naturally and just breaks a dude's ankles. And that's the kind of guy that you're getting the upside.
Yeah, you want elite in the open field.
Yeah. And he doesn't show that consistently, but he has flashes of greatness there. And he's also just very good at, between the gaps. I mean, his gap grade on PFF is 93.7. And again, PFF grades aren't everything. But when you're getting to like 93 plus, that's something where I'm like, okay, let me take a look at this guy. So David Martinez is a really big, I'm a big fan of his, especially because of the profile where I think he could play 3 downs because he's a size for it. He's not a, strictly change of pace back like a lot of these guys in this lower range typically are.
Yeah, no, that's a good shout. My number 7 is Trevor Etienne out of Georgia. I thought Trevor was a really solid downhill runner. I think one of the things that impressed me most is, 1, he did it pretty consistently against SEC competition. But 2, in the college football playoffs, when Carson Beck went down with injury and everybody on the planet knew Georgia was going to run the ball, Etienne was still able to pick his spots, get, through the holes and still be a consistently good runner when you're up against Texas, their defense, who knows it's coming. I think Trevor Etienne is a much better runner than his brother Travis, but I actually think that they'd be a really good pairing together because I think Trevor leaves some to be desired in the receiving game, which Travis is actually pretty strong in. So I think that would be funny. Jacksonville could use another running back. I've seen them mocked Jeanty before, but if they took Trevor in the 3rd, I like Trevor Etienne. Again, for me, what gave him the nod was just the level of competition I saw him do it against was stronger. on Georgia, and I've seen him do it for a couple years now. But, we're really picking straws at this point when it comes to some of these guys, and some of it is really just about preference. Who is your running back number 8? I haven't been able to stop thinking about it since you said that it's somebody with an elite trait, because I had Skattebo at 8, so my list is done there.
I had Bhayshul Tuten 8, and his elite trait is his speed. He ran a 4.32 40, and that shows up on tape as well. So he's a guy where if you can control his main, this is the reason why he's not being talked about as much, despite running, that kind of speed, because NFL teams are all over it. You would hear way more buzz around him just from that alone if he didn't have so much fumbling issues. And if there's one thing NFL teams like besides speed, one thing they hate is fumbling the football. And he had 4 in 2024, 4 in 2023 in his 2 big seasons at Virginia Tech. So it's a big issue there. But
that's a massive concern, because turnovers in the NFL, they cost, obviously at every level they cost you, but at a level where it's the pros pro, the best of the best, you can't afford to give the other team opportunities.
100%. No, and that's where I agree why I'm very hesitant of him. I mean, but I'm going where my kind of thought process is we're RB8. We're deeper in the class. A lot of these guys have risk anyway.
You're swinging for the fences.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just going to try to hit a home run, because if he can fix that issue, and we've seen plenty of times where it can't be fixed. But
remember when Jamar Chase couldn't catch footballs in training camp?
Right. No, I'm thinking of who comes to mind? Antonio Gibson from the at the time Redskins. But if he does get it fixed, he is explosive. I mean, he is elusive. He can get to the outside and he can make a man miss. He can hit. Besides, I think he's right up there with Henderson in just terms of can make a massive play happen. It's just everything else that he does, pass pro, in between the tackles, isn't nearly as good. I'm pretty sure Henderson has never fumbled the ball in 4 years. So there's a massive,
I think
that was like a crazy stat, right?
I think this pick shows your fantasy brain compared to my NFL, just watching NFL brain, where you're like, I'll take the fastest guy, and I'm like, I'll take Trevor Etienne, pros pro, did it at the highest. I just think that's a little difference there.
That's fair.
My running back list, to recap: Ashton Jeanty, Omarion Hampton, Treveyon Henderson, 4 Kaleb Johnson, 5 Quinshon Judkins, 6 Jordan James, 7 Trevor Etienne, and 8 Cam Skattebo. Steve, why don't you read off your list?
All right, so I had Jeanty at 1, Omarion Hampton at 2, Treveyon Henderson at 3, Kaleb Johnson at 4, Quinshon Judkins at 5, Cam Skattebo at 6, Damien Martinez at 7, and Bhayshul Tuten at 8.
All right, so those are our running back lists. We agreed 1 through 5. I doubt it happens in the wide receiver video. It didn't happen in the quarterback video. If you didn't check that one out, go check that one out after this. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe, because the wide receiver rankings video is coming out on Wednesday. Again, for film breakdown, player profiles, check out Steve's channel, Dynasty Trading Room, in the description down below. Appreciate you joining us, Steve. We will catch you guys next time. Peace.